Good day, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jo Rosen. I'm president and founder of Parkinson's Resource Organization. And today, as we go forth into our week of remembrance, our topic today is very timely. I am so pleased to be talking to you and introducing our guest about getting a grip on the end of life. And I'm introducing you today to Glendon Geikie, who is an end-of-life doula. So let me ask you, are you aware, our audience, are you aware of birth doulas? And I'm thinking the answer might be yes. And so if you are knowledgeable about birth doulas, then you should also be knowledgeable about death doulas. And today, that's what we're going to be talking about. Glendon, welcome and thank you so much for being on the series of things to know right now. Let's get through some of the items that people can start thinking about and talking about as they near the end of life. So one of the questions I have for you, Glendon, is what is the right time to start talking about getting a grip on the end of life?
First of all, Jo, thank you for having me. It's always a wonderful, loving thing to be here with you. It's never too early to get started thinking about it, especially as you start to age and things start to happen. We start to have illnesses, other things start to happen. But getting ready as early as we possibly can makes it much easier later on when we do have to face the issues that we will have to face as we age. So it's always, any time is a good time.
I love it. I love it. And so I'm hoping that everyone listens to the end of this interview because this will be very important in their life planning process. And so I'd love to have you start out, at the end of this, we'll talk about what is an end-of-life doula. But in the beginning, let's talk about what are some of the practical issues that someone might consider in starting their conversation about getting a grip on the end of life.
Right.
What practical issues might you bring their way?
All right, from a practical point of view, making sure your financial things are in order. Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Is that all in place? Do you have an advanced care directive in place yet? Have you named a healthcare proxy, somebody that can speak to you if you can't speak to yourself in a health situation? All of these things, the key to all this thing is talking to people, talking to your loved one about this, talking to your doctor about this, and having all these things in place, and especially letting people know where you store that piece of information. If you lock it in your safe and nobody has a combination, all that information doesn't do us any good. So getting all those practical things ready, you can do anytime, and you can always change them as time goes on, as circumstances change.
So those are all really good points. I know that we've covered them on numerous occasions in our conferences with you and in our group meetings, etc. So I hope that everyone took an opportunity to write some of those down. If not, they certainly can get a hold of you or me, and we'll run through the practical guides of that. Do you get involved in the spiritual side of things as well?
I think also you can start thinking about the spiritual side of things. As you grow older and you develop illnesses, or maybe at some point you get a terminal diagnosis, how do you want things to be in your life during that time period? How do you want people to treat you during that time period? If you're confined to your bed, how do you want it to be? If you can be at home, having hospice or some other services so you can stay at home and not have to be in a hospital or a facility, how do you want it's your life. Your life may be coming to an end. How do you want it to be? What music would you like to have playing while you're there? How would you like it lit? Do you want a candle? Do you want a scent in the air where you're at? If you want people to come and see you, to have a chance to say goodbye, which is very, very important to have that chance to say goodbye, for people you love and people who love you. But how do you want them to be with you? How do you want them? Can they touch you? And if they do touch you, how do you want to be touched? I had a person one time, he could be touched, his face, his hands, his arm, but he was adamant, don't touch his feet. And that was important to him, and that's okay, because that's what he wanted. All those type of spiritual things. And always, what rituals, if there are going to be rituals around happening as you're near the end of your life, what do you want those rituals to be? They could be a religious basis to them, a cultural basis to them, or just something that you want to have happen around you that will have meaning to you. Maybe it will involve forgiveness, that there's somebody out there you need to forgive, or there's somebody out there that owes you a forgiveness, and how are we going to make that happen? So that when your time comes and you pass and you leave this current life, you do it without regrets.
That is so important for you to say that. I think most people say, I don't want to be a burden on those that I leave behind. And yet by not doing this communication, by not putting these plans together, in fact, they are a burden on those that they're leaving behind, because the person that's left behind doesn't really know what you, the person leaving, really wants or wanted. So they're guessing at it, and that guessing becomes a burden. So I so embrace what you do as an end of life doula. Birth and death typically call for celebration, and we have celebration of life, we have celebration of someone's birth. Do you get involved in the area of the celebration of someone?
Yes, certainly. What's getting very popular these days, we talk now about a celebration of life after the person has passed. We have a celebration of life. It's becoming more and more common. People are having a celebration of life before they pass, so that all the people that they love and love them can be there. They can talk. You get a chance to know what people are going to say at your funeral that you, as far as we know, you won't hear after you pass. Now you get a chance to hear it. But yeah, having a celebration, how to handle the end of life issue when the person passes. There's always the rush to call the funeral home and have the body removed. That doesn't have to happen that way. The person can stay there for the night, 2 or 3 days, if that's something you would like to have your loved one there. I've had people who their spouse dies during the middle of the day. They stay there and they spend the night with them in bed. They sleep together for the last time. Anything like that, any ritual like that is crucial, but it has to be designed around the individuals that are involved.
And so we think of these times, these are precious times, and these are precious times for both the person who's leaving, and they're also precious times for the person that's left behind. And those are so really, really, really important times those are the memories that we want to keep forever and ever. So I guess that kind of explains what is an end-of-life doula, or can you define it in your own words? What is an end-of-life doula?
It's a person that will be there for you, to work with you, to have all these things in place, to help you get them done, get them started, to help design your legacy. How are you going to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? To be there with the family, because no matter how well it's planned and how everything goes, we're going to grieve. Somebody's going to grieve your being gone. And a doula can be there to help you with that grief, to get started with it, just to make sure all these things are in place and they're going to happen the way they should happen, to make it a spiritual, loving, connecting event, not a medical event, but a spiritual event.
And so 2 things that someone might ask is, number 1, do you charge for your services? And number 2, is any of this covered by insurance?
Okay. First of all, no, it is not covered by insurance at this point. Secondly, I do have a fee. I start at $80 an hour. However, at my age, I am not doing this to make money. And I'll quickly say, if that's too much money, that's fine. How much can you afford? And we'll come to an agreement.
Thank you so much. This was a certainly insightful discussion that we had today. I know people would like to know more, and they can. They can know more in a couple of different ways. So to tell you, our audience, that Glendon is actually the person who facilitates our grief groups. And our grief groups are the second and fourth Thursdays of each month at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock in the morning. And he does an incredible job of discussing grief, which is talking about losses. So the grief groups that we have are not just eternal or end of life grief. It's losing the ability to walk. It's losing the ability to travel again. It's losing friendships. It's losing so much. And so our grief meetings are so much about what is being experienced today for both the living and those who are thinking of departing. I'm so happy to have you on board with us, Glendon. People can also find you in the Wellness Village on our website. Go to End of Life Doula when you get to the Wellness Village, and you'll find Glendon's gorgeous face there with the kindness and the internal beauty that the man exudes all the time. And so I know that I'm giving to you, the audience, you're in good hands if you talk to Glendon anytime between now and when life or death might be imminent. So Glendon, thank you so much for today. Is there anything you think the audience might want to know more?
It's looking at death, facing death is always hard. As it is, facing serious illness is hard. However, it takes courage. And I know that everybody does have courage. And I want everybody to have that courage to be able to look at death in the face, know it's coming, and prepare, and make life actually a lot easier because you are prepared.
Couldn't say it better. You do a terrific job. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll talk with you soon. Thank you, audience. We know you love this one. See you again next. Things to Know right now.